Guys, I am excited. I gotta tell you, this news is very exciting to me personally because being the film geek that I'm a big fan of the legendary Japanese filmmaker Akira Kurosawa, and one of his best known movies is, in fact, Rashomon, which is basically a kind of feudal tale, Japanese feudal society, in which a rape occurs. And the tale is told from the point of view of a bunch of different witnesses or people who were involved in the crime, being told to, like a tribunal type thing. And it's one of those things where, every time we see the story told from someone else's point of view, it's different. So it kind of goes with that unreliable narrator trope. And the movie, what it did at the time, which was so revolutionary, was that it wasn't a linear film. It was something that played with, how the story played out. It was kind of like the Pulp Fiction of its time. If you think about Pulp Fiction's odd, 3 to 5 act structure type deal. And another thing that they did was they never gave you a definitive answer as to who was telling you the truth. And so it was one of those movies where when it ended, it kind of like still in your mind, you were thinking about it. It's like, well, did I believe this person? Did I believe that person? What really happened? It was kind of left up to the audience to make that determination. And at the time, that was like revolutionary because you got to remember in the 1950s when this movie came out, movies were just very like from point A to point B, very linear type of thing. And Kurosawa, part of his brilliance was challenging these norms that were set up in the studio system of Hollywood and making movies that didn't fit into the traditional mold. And the news here coming from comingsoon.net is that Amblin TV's Rashomon series has been acquired by HBOMax. Now, you guys might know that HBOMax has been kind of like scrambling to get new original content out to get people to subscribe to their service. And this is pretty cool because Amblin is Steven Spielberg's, production company. And who better to bring a Kurosawa film to the small screen than someone like Spielberg? Now, before we get into the details of this, I just want to encourage you guys to go to saltynerdpodcast.com. Take 2 seconds to, just go to that domain name. It's going to take you to, if you're on an iPhone, to our iTunes subscription page, or if you're on an Android phone, it's going to take you to either Google Podcasts or Spotify. And basically just subscribe to our podcast. We're trying to get our numbers up. We're just kind of a small podcast right now, but we're a comedy podcast where we talk about movies, TV shows, pop culture, and we have a good laugh at it while we're doing it. So we'd really appreciate if you guys took some time to check us out. Hit that subscribe button on the podcasting platform of your choice because those numbers do matter and they are important to us. And it's a great free way of supporting our content that doesn't take a whole lot of time to do. So we'd really appreciate it if you did that. But getting back to this story, I want to read you this article. So it's been 2 years since word first broke that Amblin TV was developing a series adaptation of Akira Kurosawa's acclaimed drama Rashomon, and now the studio has revealed it's partnering with HBO Max for the forthcoming project. I'm delighted to work with Amblin Partners and HBO Max to reimagine Rashomon for today's audience. Hisao Kurosawa? You guys know I'm terrible with names, so I apologize for butchering Mr. Kurosawa's name. Son of the iconic director said in a statement, "I'm excited to see my dad's vision through his inspirational story kept alive and made accessible to a new generation. The series, which is being penned by Oscar nominees Bill Ray, The Comey Rule," I don't know, I haven't seen that one yet, so we'll see how good it is, and Virgil Williams, Mudbound, haven't seen that one either, will not be a direct adaptation of the 1950 classic, but rather will retain its key plot device of a drama centering on a grisly sexual assault and murder and unraveling the mystery through the characters' competing narratives over the course of a 10-episode series set in the modern day. Okay, so obviously this is going to be a modern day adaptation of the movie, which was set in feudal Japan, so there aren't going to be samurais running around in it. But it is interesting that they're going to focus on a particular rape and murder, and they're going to use the concept, which was really pioneered by the original Rashomon film, which is the competing perspectives and like who's lying, who's telling the truth. But we're going to get to see a lot of stuff from different people's point of view. And if you remember, Ryan Johnson actually lifted that device from this movie Rashomon for The Last Jedi, where he shows what happens from Luke's perspective, and he shows what happens from Kylo Ren's perspective, and they're both different, but they're told from that character's point of view. And Star Wars has long been known to be influenced by Kurosawa and his style of filmmaking, and The Last Jedi was actually heavily influenced by Akira Kurosawa, and this is one of the things that Ryan Johnson used in his interpretation of that material. So whether you like it or not, like he did, I'm talking about the movie, whether you like The Last Jedi or not, he did use Kurosawa techniques, particularly from Rashomon, when making that movie. The truth has become increasingly fractured in this age of cable news and social media's say it and it's true culture, Daryl Frank and Justin Falvey, Amblin Partners co-presidents, said in a statement. Akira Kurosawa's masterpiece was not just a murder mystery, it was a revolution in storytelling as cinema's most impactful and influential early exploration of subjective points of view and flawed narration. 70 years after the film's release, the legacy of Rashomon is indisputable and its central themes more relevant than ever. Our series will honor the impact of the original work and explore the age-old concept of objective truth versus subjective perspective in our modern times. Frank and Favli, the Americans' The Haunting of Hill House, are attached to executive produce the series alongside Mark Canton, Power, of Atmosphere Entertainment, Lee Ann Burton of Opus 7 Entertainment, and David Hopwood, Den of Thieves, with SVP of Television Development Todd Cohen set to oversee the day-to-day development of the project. SVP means Senior Vice President. So Frank and Falvey, these guys were producers on The Americans and The Haunting of Hill House, which are both excellent series. If you haven't checked either of those out, be sure to do so. I think they're both on Netflix. But those were very good shows, and so I'm quite interested to see how they're going to take on this subject matter in particular, because producers actually have a lot more power in TV production than they do in the movies. It takes a lot of hard work to make the stars align, and I consider myself incredibly fortunate to have the opportunity to create an original take on Rashomon, a masterpiece from a true genius of cinema, for new audiences with the full support and blessing of the Kurosawa family, Canton said in a statement. Not only that, but to be doing so in partnership with my friends and colleagues at Amblin Television, as well as the brilliantly talented Billy Ray and Virgil Williams, is truly the convergence of hard work and good fortune that every producer hopes for. The original film, co-written by Kurosawa and Shinobu Hashimoto, and directed by the former, revolves around the rape of a bride and the murder of her samurai husband, and sees the story told from 4 different perspectives, that of a bandit, the bride, a woodcutter, and the ghost of the samurai. It received rave reviews from critics worldwide except for those from its country of origin, and is widely considered as the first to put Japanese filmmaking onto the world stage, winning several awards, including an Academy Honorary Award at the 24th Academy Awards in 1952, and consistently appears on numerous lists for the best films of all time. And it is quite a good film. Modern sensibilities, you might be kind of bored by it, but like if you're looking at it from the perspective of a film geek, like I usually do, it's masterful. Everything Kurosawa did was masterful. Kurosawa's previous work has been adapted for international audiences before, with Seven Samurai becoming the 1960 Western classic The Magnificent Seven, and Yojimbo acting as both an inspiration and source material for numerous works, including the official remakes of A Fistful of Dollars, which spawned its own trilogy starring Clint Eastwood in the lead role, and Last Man Standing starring Bruce Willis, as well as influencing an episode of the acclaimed animated series Samurai Jack. So Kurosawa, he's one of the most influential filmmakers of all time. You name a modern filmmaker who's a legend, and chances are they studied Kurosawa's work. The guy was just a wonderful, wonderful filmmaker, and I'm really excited to see that Hollywood is going back to some of his work and bringing it forward to modern audiences. Like they touched in the article about how The Magnificent Seven was a take on The Seven Samurai. There's been lots of different variations on that. Yojimbo is another one. So Kurosawa definitely has a track record of creating these classic Shakespearean style timeless stories that can work in any medium, in any day and age. And I'm really excited to see Rashomon come to the small screen, especially considering that HBO Max isn't really doing much else on the original front that seems all that interesting. In fact, they're still not even on Roku and Amazon right now. So until HBO Max comes to those platforms, it's going to be hard for a lot of people to enjoy some of the content that they're going to be developing. But considering that this was just announced at the end of September 2020, we probably aren't going to see this until 2022 or 2023 even, unless they rush the production. But with COVID out there putting the brakes on a lot of that stuff, I doubt we're going to see it within the next year or so. But what I want to know is, what do you guys think of this news? Are you excited for Rashomon TV series? How do you think it's going to play out? It's definitely going to be a prestige show. Or is it something that would attract you to subscribing to HBO Max in order to see it? Let me know in the comments. And as always, guys, we appreciate your support. Go to saltynerdpodcast.com, subscribe to the podcast. It'll take you 2 seconds. It's free to do, and it really helps us out, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, this is Matthew Kadish. I'll catch you in the next video.